You just can't take any motions. I mean, and technically you're not supposed to, but I mean, so long as you're not going to take any motions, that's the big thing. There can be no actions.
No, okay. Could we determine that we have to review the ordinance or something like that? Or is that considered an action?
No,
That's a motion.
you won't take a motion. I mean, if you want to, initiate that conversation and then have it as an agenda item for your regular meeting at which you could take an action.
Okay.
So now you have the dilemma, though. I know it was important to you guys that you kind of wanted a full complement of the board. I'm not sure who was here and who wasn't, but we thought we had. Wait 1 second.
So Jeff, do you live around the lake too?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
402 East.
Oh, okay. When I first started, everyone was around the lake except me. I'm in Winchester Center.
Okay.
But now Andrea's not from the lake. Russell, do you live around the lake too?
No, I live I'm on Wheeler Avenue, so right down by Pearson,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
but not far from the lake.
1 second. I'm sorry, because when I go live, I think I'm good. It goes live and then I hear it play back when I put it on YouTube, but I don't hear anything, so I'm good. So I thought we would have 9 with the addition of Jeff Lippincott and Carrie Esposito, but Carrie had communicated that she's not going to be able to serve after all. So you're still only at 8. And then it does not appear that Kurt's going to be here. But, I think you guys have put it off long enough. So you have 2, 5, 7. So you have 7 members here tonight, which is good because should there be a runoff for the various elected positions, you won't have a tie. So with that being said, I don't know if there's any kind of sense that you'd want to delay again having the election tonight, to wait for Kurt. Otherwise, Russ has been calling the meetings to order as the only serving officer right now. We don't have a chairman. It was vacated by Rick Nillette. We don't have a vice chairman. It was vacated by Chris Kiley. And Russ is your acting. He's still serving as secretary.
Originally, yeah.
Right. So whenever you're ready to call the meeting,
Okay.
and then you can discuss.
Sure. Hello, my name is Russell Davenport. I'm the acting chairman of the Town of Winchester Inlands Wetlands Watercourse Commission. This meeting on January 6, 2021 is held remotely, and it is a special meeting for the election of officers. I'd like to start with a roll call. Christine Hunter.
Here.
Andrea Kowicki.
Present.
Jeff Lippincott.
Here.
Mary Ann Marino.
Present.
And Steve Molnelli.
Present.
And Jackie Mulvey.
Present.
And Kurt Timoney is absent. Okay. All right. Moving on to item 2 is the election of officers. And I have not been involved, or I would say I'm not actually sure of the protocol here with the election of officers. Obviously, I know we have to vote on them, but I'm not sure how to start the proceedings with this.
So you can accept nominations for a slate of candidates. You can accept nominations, do it one at a time. If you're going to do it one at a time, you want to accept nominations. Someone makes it just like they would a motion, someone seconds it, and then you see if there's any additional nominations. And then when you hear, if you don't hear any other nominations, then you can act on it. If you hear other nominations, we'll then take them one at a time.
Right.
And what are the elections we're looking at?
You're looking at chairman, vice chairman, and secretary.
And are we we able to have as somewhat of an open, I mean, a
Conversation.
discussion of
Yep.
where people think they're at? I mean, we've got a pretty small group here. We also had to have a group that, you know, the two senior or two more experienced people with it, you know, left in a fairly short amount of time, and combined with a very, you know, a huge amount of course, you know, workload over the fall. It was definitely a challenging fall for everybody here. I think I certainly thank everybody for all the hours that people put into this. You know, just our very long meetings, and certainly Pam putting incredible amount of time into all of this, and the enforcement or seeing many of these sites at the lake. So
I think Russell's doing a great job, so we should keep him as chair, but that's my opinion. Anyone else?
in speaking for myself, you know, one of my biggest limitations here, this is certainly when I first came on this commission, I had my own company, and I was a lot more available. You know, my schedule was much more flexible. That said, I still do some of my own work, but I work for a company full time that often requires me to travel, you know, kind of all around the state, and coming up actually out of the state. We're going to be doing some jobs probably in Ohio, actually. So you know, I always felt like my ability to go look at sites which I did not have very much time to do was very, very limited. And unfortunately, you know, I sometimes feel almost an outsider in my own town again, because I'm not around as certainly as much as I used to be at all. You know, the time commitment to run this effectively for people that are dependent on us, I feel it's very, you know, I'm just limited by that.
So you don't want to be chair?
No, not at this point. Honestly, I don't have, like I said, the time commitment for me is too much, I think, to do a fair job. You know, it's not just mine, it's me. It's to do a fair job for everybody else in this commission and all the people involved, certainly on the lake, where we enforce a lot of these regulations, and that time, I don't feel that I have enough time to put into that.
Well, I'd like to nominate Steve Molinelli because as chair, only because he does have a lot of experience in the position. He lives on the lake. Seems to have a little bit more time than most of us, and he would be right on top of it. And then maybe Russ, you would keep your position as secretary, and then we just need a co-chair. Does anybody have further interest in being a co-chair?
Vice chair.
Vice chair.
Vice chair.
I guess, does Steve want that position?
I had indicated in the past that once there was a void of leadership when a previous chair left and then Chris left, I had indicated that I did have the time and I'd be willing to serve as the chair. Under the circumstances at this point, I still would accept that position, knowing that I can do it time-wise and experience-wise. So, you know, I would be willing to serve as the chair.
I guess I would say for myself that maybe the vice chair potentially might be a better spot for me than the secretary. I feel like I've run enough meetings, and I feel like I've learned a lot, but that's for everybody else to decide themselves too. I would be, you know, willing to take on some more responsibility. I feel that's important.
I would agree to that as long as you want to. And then we need a secretary.
What are the duties of the secretary, Pam? You really act as secretary.
I act as the recording clerk. And just so you know, I think there was a time in Steve and Jackie had served with Rosemary Roast. Do you remember Rosemary? Or
No.
Loretta Tremblay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Secretary. And they couldn't find a recording clerk, you know, someone to do minutes, and, you know, not for nothing, that seems to be a problem in many towns. and you absolutely have to have minutes. You know, you can't not have minutes or there's no record of the meeting. So if you fail to have a recording clerk because you just can't find anyone willing to do it, and, you know, it's a paid position, then yes, the secretary of the commission is ultimately responsible for getting the minutes filed. And in the absence of the chairman and the vice chairman, as Russ can attest to, running, that's it, you run the meeting. You're the,
The runner-up.
yeah.
How about Marianne or Christine? Does anybody have interest in being a secretary?
I don't.
I know. I feel like I'm too new and I'm still learning, and I just, I'm not ready for an actual officer position.
Pam, the reality is,
I
under
agree.
the present circumstances, and for the last 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, the secretary really has no role in recording the minutes and publishing the minutes or anything like that. So it's a
Only when
title without that kind of a job description.
Yeah, only, like if if I weren't doing it anymore as the recording clerk, and if there was trouble finding a recording clerk, like I said, ultimately, the secretary's obligated to do the minutes. It hasn't been a problem, I've been 5 years.
It's been longer than 5 years that there's been no real secretary doing minutes. It's
Right,
always
right.
been a town
And the
employee.
secretary never does minutes, I think,
Right.
I don't know where, I think you had like Anna Lucas Savage. Before that, you had Lori Bissett, and I almost think Rhonda Roy had done them. But there was a time where I don't remember who the girl was, but they had hired someone and it didn't work out, and then they were without a secretary. Dale Martin was doing minutes for some of the boards and commissions, because a lot of times, the staff person, even if, you're the town planner or you're the wetlands agent, you have to file something. And I think there might have been even where there wasn't, I'm not sure what caused the lack of minutes for zoning board of appeals. But there's a 6-month window where there weren't minutes. But I want to say that Loretta had to do them maybe just a couple months.
So for clarity, the reality is that the secretary's position it ultimately is not responsible for anything other than the third in succession to run the meetings.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I raised my hand originally for it.
Well,
All right, does
Russ.
that allow other people to rethink whether or not they want the title? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
How about Jackie? She's professional. Jackie, how about you? You've been there.
I could do it.
Okay.
And are these 1-year terms or 3-year terms? The 1-year.
One-
term.
Every April.
Steve is
So
chair.
then.
You're
will
going to
this-
do this again in April, so that you.
Oh, so this position or the election will only be from now until April,
Yep.
and then we go through the process again.
Yep.
Oh, so it's a good trial run.
So it's a learning curve.
Yeah, exactly. So we have Steve, Russ, and Jackie. What do you think?
Thumbs up.
Good.
So now just formalize it with a motion in a second, and then, ask Russ, as you're still acting chairman, ask if there's any other nominations. And then if there's none put forward, then you can vote on, your slate.
Okay. Would I make that somebody needs to make a motion first, correct?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. So I make a motion that Russ remains as chair. Russ is vice chair. Steve is chairman, and secretary will be Jackie Mulvey.
I second that.
And that said, before we vote, are there any additional
Nominations.
nominations? Sorry.
Does anybody else have any interest?
Does Andrea have interest?
Hearing none, do we have a second?
Andrea,
I can do that. I can second it.
All right, Jeff. Way to step up right away. I like it.
I thought you were
All
my
right.
friend.
So all of those in favor of the proposal from Christine Hunter, would you raise your hand?
Unanimous. Good.
Okay.
Unanimous?
Okay. So Steve, you had talked about, did you have something you needed to just bring up for discussion points and to add to the next agenda?
You know, we've been so inundated with applications and public, hearings and so forth that probably since, I would say, mid-July or early, June, we've had 2 or 3 meetings a month just to keep up with the work. And we sort of let a lot of other bread and butter issues fall through the cracks. And it's my thought that, I think one of the obstacles that we constantly run into is the ordinance. And there are aspects of the ordinance that I think should be reviewed and would have probably no impact on anything other than we would sort of legalize something that's being done without permission. And I'll give you an example. Properties are entitled to a boat lift and a jet ski lift, which is a boat lift that you put jet skis on. And there are several houses on the lake where we've given permission for people to have a boat lift and then a jet ski lift or a double jet ski lift. And lo and behold, they put another boat on their jet ski lift. It takes up the same amount of space in the water. It's not doing any harm to anything. If we looked at that aspect of the ordinance and broadened it to be an either or for the second lift, it would make sense to me. So that's something that, I'd like to look at. The other thing I think that certainly we have to look at is this whole thing with the way the storm drains enter the lake and the maintenance of these storm drains by the town Public Works Department, where at one point the mayor came before us and after, her opinion as to our functioning, the conversation centered around storm drains, and there was a response that the town was going to be purchasing a truck to vacuum out storm drains and sweep the lake, and there would be a schedule. And in reality, I haven't seen any kind of schedule, and I don't know the frequency of anybody cleaning out storm drains and that kind of thing. So I think we really have to refocus on that, because if there's one contaminant of the lake that's certainly obvious to me, is what's happening with rainwater and road debris and salt and sand being spread now. What happens to that when it enters the lake? And it does enter it. So we're delusionary if we think we don't. It doesn't, rather. So those are 2 items that I think we should look at for sure.
On that note, there's a Highland Lake Commission, correct? Is that what it's called?
Watershed Association.
Watershed.
Watershed Association. And I went, do we have, or is anybody on this board a member of that?
My wife was on it for the past 3 years.
I was on it for about 12 years.
Do we have any real relationship with them, though? I almost feel like we should. I just feel like we don't seem to have that much relationship there. I think it may help with a lot of things if we did, potentially.
I think they're very effective. From what I'm speaking with my wife, I think they do a nice job with the weed control, the clarity of the water, the cleanliness of the water. So,
that would certainly be within our scope. I mean, certainly would be something to maybe this year as a goal to make some inroads there, or at least to make some connections. And, I mean, we've got a small lake with more and more people on it and new people and being used heavily. I think the more we get help from, or not help, or more we reach out to some of these other organizations, it would certainly be beneficial. I don't think it could hurt us.
I also think that the Watershed Association could be a vehicle for the dissemination of accurate information regarding the permitting process and different aspects of lake life, so to speak, that we're involved in as a commission. And my guess is they would be more than willing to participate in that process because it serves to everybody's advantage for this lake to be clean and successful.
Their current president, Beth Papermaster, is putting together a newsletter. And in that newsletter, she's going to include an advisory to new, well, to all of the property owners, but I think there's, quite a few new lakefront property owners, to just more or less introduce them to the whole notion of permitting, so that if nothing else, they understand that there is a permitting process, that there, what a regulated area is. And, she had emailed me, I want to say it was just this afternoon. So, but I think she expects to release that newsletter soon. And, she's got some good tips about that, when in doubt, please call the wetlands office, so that's coming out soon. And they issue newsletters. I know that they have fundraisers, they function as, the unofficial stewards of the lake. They do the water testing, Jackie
Yeah.
or Jeff?
Yeah.
You know what?
Well, they do it sometimes, and sometimes they hire someone to do it.
It used to be that the water testing for, I'm going to say April and October, was done by George Knockline.
Right.
And then the June, July, August, September, those 4 or 5 months in between were done by volunteers, either on the association or related to the association, once a month, where they took water samples in the 3 different bays at different depths.
Yeah.
And then that was turned into George Knockline, and that was sort of like the basis for determining the clarity of the lake.
He does the
This year,
analysis on it.
this year or last year, and I think this
I think
past
it's
summer
last
for
year.
sure. This last summer for sure, the volunteers were removed from that aspect of doing water testing. And I believe the Watershed Association hired George Knockline's organization to do it all the time for last summer. One of the negative aspects of that is, I don't know how timely the information comes back to the association as to the results. And I know certainly our commission never hears about it. So, again, the water clarity is a result of, the pollutants that go into it, whether it be lawn, applications, or the sewer drainage issue, or boats leaking with gas or oil, and just the natural growth of life in the lake.
Since we're short a commissioner, would it be possible, Pam, if you sent an email to the Watershed Association and said, hey, we'd really welcome one of you guys to join our team? And then that might kind of be a good liaison for us.
Yeah, I'll ask, yeah, sure I will.
Yeah, Christine, that's a great idea.
It is.
There's got to be somebody that's on that commission that would probably be interested, or in that organization that would probably be interested in doing that.
I've been on this organization for a long time, and there's always been a very clear balance of the different skill sets that each commissioner brings to the commission. And I see a void now in the skill set that Russ provides, in that he's knowledgeable of land and construction and topography and the effects that all of those kinds of things have on the site, the construction site and the project, and how it impacts on the lake. Having said that, I think that might be a direction that, if we're going to get a suggestion from anybody, and whether it be the Watershed Association or, you know, the select people independently, that we sort of petition and express that need, because it's important. You know, if Russ is absent from a meeting, we're somewhat compromised and limited in reality. And that hurts.
Yeah, I think
everyone agrees with that.
one thing I see maybe we, a lot of us, and myself included, haven't been to some of these trainings, and certainly this is a good springboard into that. And, we focus a lot, certainly a lot on the lake, but we have a lot of other wetlands too. And there's stuff going on that we should be probably more aware of and get a little more, kind of science behind us a little bit, I think, to it, and get more familiar with, just water quality and watershed type stuff. I think we're all a little bit lacking there sometimes. So, I think the classes would help. I'll definitely make sure now that we can do them remotely, it is easier, but the more we go through the training, I think the better off everybody would be. But like I said, of course, myself being number one with that.
I took an online class that I found very helpful, that just, did a lot about explaining the different types of soils and the different types of drainage. And it was very helpful and interesting too.
And that was the link, Pam, that you sent us, had some of those classes?
Yep.
Okay. Are those, I don't even know if those are live classes or are they just general tutorials?
The one I took was not Zoom thing. It was before Zoom got to be very popular. So I think now they would be even better.
Do you think now they maybe have them as tutorials as opposed to a live Zoom meeting?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
But I agree with you that we should focus more on training, especially for new members.
I also think that one of the areas that we have to really concentrate on trying to accomplish is when we pick up our packets and we review our packets, there's a lot of pressure on us to make decisions when we don't visit the sites and we really don't know firsthand what the applicant is asking for, or we're trying to visualize it, or, understand their wording of what they're doing. I've always found that, the more I was able to get to a site, the more understanding I had of what they're telling me or what they're selling to me. And, that in itself is very time consuming, but it's equally as important. So, I think now that maybe the dust is settling a little bit, and we sort of have I think for January, we have back to somewhat of a normal meeting, barring weather, if we can, it's prudent to visit a site. We can't go as a group. We can't go with more than what, Pam, 2 or 3 people?
We would have to get those packets, not just the day before. I mean, we would need time to do that.
But Pam usually has the packets on the Thursday or Friday before the meeting available.
On the Friday before I go home.
So, you have, I'm not preaching, but I'm saying you have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and, sometime Wednesday. I understand that people have obligations and work schedules and things of that sort, and I do understand that. But, the flip side of it is we've accepted this position as a commissioner, and it behooves us, if you can't go to every site, there are some that are more critical than others and some are more challenging than others, and, be selective if that's the case, but it is critical.
Can we communicate through email about, or we can't really, as far as who goes to what site, you just have to say, kind
You
of can't.
you can send messages to me, in that respect, but you don't want to be discussing stuff offline.
Right, my only thought was, if we, maybe one goal we could say is, let's try to get at least one commissioner to each site, something initially, that how would we go about communicating, saying, or we just communicate to you, Pam,
Yeah.
and saying, I'm gonna go to these three or one.
Yep. And yeah.
Okay, so that would be the chain of command for me to say, I pick up my packet on Friday and say, hey, Pam, I looked at this real quick. I'm gonna hit up A, B, and C. And at least that could go out as an email to others saying, Russ is gonna take a look at a couple of these. And I know these are things I certainly need to pick up on between the training and getting to more sites. And that's a reasonable goal for me.
And homeowners are familiar with us coming, say, I've never done this part of it. So am I supposed to just show up knowing that I had this packet and I reviewed it and I just show up at their property? Do I need to somehow alert them? Do I knock on the door and say?
Yeah,
"Hey,
I would knock on the door, and if you could give me as much advance notice so that I can tell them through email,
Yeah.
that, please expect to see commissioners at your site. They've given permission, but it's just polite so that they don't become startled.
When they give you the application, can you just say between now and the meeting that you may have one or two commissioners showing up just to
I
read?
do, like, they know that they
Okay.
will, but I mean, just so that, I don't know.
Just don't want someone with a shotgun around the corner saying, who are you? Get off my property.
No, no.
You know what, in the past, whenever members have gone, like Pam said, just knock on the door
Exactly.
and indicate who you are and why you're there. And look, your purpose there is to help them in reality. So most people are cordial.
Yeah.
But if they engage us in conversation, we're not just supposed to discuss it, right? We're supposed to
No,
just review it.
Like, you shouldn't let them lobby you.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah.
can talk all they want. I just can't respond.
Right. Like, all the conversation should really be on the record, especially if you schedule a public hearing. If your visit is not before the reception, but not before that first meeting, and it
Mhm.
falls within the first and the second meeting, and there's been a public hearing scheduled, then you really have to steer clear of any conversation. And
That was the one thing in our training. Rick was going to do that with me before he left, and then it didn't work out. His schedule didn't work out and kept changing, or then COVID hit, and it was just not conducive to be able to do that. So
you really don't want, and that's to protect the applicant, like,
Right.
all of this is for the applicant, like, we caution them to, avoid any type of, because, they don't need to have their approval appealed, so that's,
Chris?
that,
Basically, when you pick up your packet and you visit a site that's a new application,
mhm.
there's no indication that it's going to be a public hearing or anything other than it's a new application. So at that point, you have more liberty and flexibility to go and look. And if they want to say something to you, just listen, kind of. Once we accept their application and it's determined that it's going to be a public hearing, that sort of changes the rules.
Okay.
But up until then, there are no rules, so to speak. Your rule is, your purpose is to gather information as to what the piece of paper says and your understanding of that piece of paper. And in between, after the acceptance and the vote, maybe there's a little more restrictions, but it's insightful to know what you're voting on.
And do I need that badge? It was once said that I have supposed to go pick up some badge somewhere. I don't know what that was.
I have one. I don't know where it is.
Okay, so nobody uses it. I just didn't want to be the oddball out saying,
I've never had one.
I don't have
Okay.
a badge.
So we
Ah,
go to the site, and if they say, I want to show you what I want to do here, we can certainly let them point out what the scope of the work is and explain it to us.
yeah.
But
And then when you're sitting in the meeting, if you hear any conflicts, well, wait a second, when we were out there, you said you were gonna straighten out
You
the,
can't do that.
Right,
no,
okay.
no, you could,
Oh,
like if you're there and,
Okay.
you hear a discrepancy during the meeting that you feel you need to better, tell the commission, like that's kind of what I do. Like if I'm out there and I see something and then if during the meeting it seems like, well, wait a second, that kind of conflicts with, what I
What you told-
observed,
Okay, okay.
then you want to share that, you don't want to,
Okay.
or if you think you can better explain, something that you've seen that sometimes, you can tell there's some communication issues if the applicant isn't quite making their point. But, I tell applicants that pictures really do help to
Mhm.
share pictures as part of their application, is how helpful that can be.
Are we allowed to take pictures while we're there?
Just realize everything's FOIable. So if
It's
you
what?
share anything, everything is subject to Freedom of Information Act. So, it's always advisable not to use your personal devices for that type of thing.
Oh, you mean like a camera or a cell phone?
Yeah, like, most.
So you're advising don't take pictures.
Exactly, unless you're taking it with a camera.
Okay.
And the other thing also is that I think from a comfort level, if you have your packet in a timely manner and you have the ability to visit the site and sort of like get a feel for what the applicant is saying, when it comes meeting time, each one of us would become a more active participant in the meeting because we sort of have an idea of what we're talking about. If you pick up, don't misunderstand when I say if you pick up. If I picked up my package on Wednesday afternoon at 2:00 and the
You don't
meeting
have
is at 7:00, I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I don't know what the hell went on. I'm just reading for the first time what somebody wants and so that's not fair to the rest of the commission. I wouldn't be fair to you guys if I do it that way. So, the more you become comfortable with the environment, the application process, and the actual visit of the site, the more likely you are, and I am, to participate in the meeting and contribute toward the decision rather than a vote.
Mhm.
The last thing you do is if you're quiet and you stick your hand up one way or the other, we don't know really how anybody felt about the project other than you voted for it or you voted against it. So
Part of the problem for me is just knowing all the rules and regulations. And that's the learning process.
you know what? I think we all make mistakes, but none of the mistakes we make are critical.
Mhm.
You'll make a mistake once and somebody will point it out to you in a professional way and you won't make it again. So, take a chance. The applicant doesn't know if you made a mistake, really.
They don't know the rules either.
Well, they know the rules. The rule is do what you can get away with, really. But,
I think it's a very good goal. Like I have to get out and see some more sites. Absolutely. I know this past fall was crazy and my workload was crazy and it just, I hardly felt like I had my head above water. But I think coming up certainly for all of us to get out and see a few sites would be great. I think we need to. I know I need to. So.
and which sites are crazy, which applications require certainly a lot more attention and knowledge on our parts than somebody, who's going to put in a dock and they have 200 feet of property. They want to put it in the middle. It's, don't waste your time on something insignificant where your time may be limited and more meaningful to you.
I agree.
Sounds good, Steve.
All right. So our next meeting, I think, from what Pam said, and I think the calendar that I looked at, unless I misread it, but I wrote it on my house calendar. I thought it said January 21st, which is a Thursday, but Pam has just indicated that it is the Wednesday, January 20th. So if it's wrong on the printed calendar, we know when it is as of this point,
Wednesday, the 20th, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Pam, does it look like a long agenda?
No, not really.
So we
Not-
just had a busy fall and winter, but it slowed
Yeah.
down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the lake's starting to fill up.
Okay.
You know
No.
what?
Sorry, before we move on to because I feel like we're moving maybe toward adjournment, is one thing I just wanted to bring up with everybody, and we have a little time, is that a while back, Pam sent, I had asked about courses, right? Trainings for all of us. And Pam had sent a link to Inland Wetlands Commission trainings, and they're not doing any in person right now, but they
They're
do
not
have
doing it.
but they have a lot recorded. It's a really great resource that you sent, Pam.
The training videos, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the videos,
Yep.
and there's a lot of text and written stuff. So I was just gonna recommend that you resend that out, especially now that we have two new commissioners.
I just sent it to Jeff.
Yeah,
during-
I just
Oh,
got it.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've
So I
been
will.
kind of-
I'll send everything. Like
And
I was thinking that just before that. I'll send ordinances that relate to your work and the right, everything I'm going to send to Jeff, I'll send to you just in case I haven't sent it before.
Yeah, and I've just been making because it has been a busy, crazy year, and things have just started to open up a little bit for me. But like, if anybody wants to, I was gonna say do these things together, but like, do them together virtually. I'm all for that. So anybody who wants to kind of like, maybe make a schedule of watching some videos together, maybe talking about them together, I'd be down with doing that a couple times a month.
Mary Ann, you also sent a letter to the town manager?
Yeah, to which he didn't respond. So I was thinking I should, Pam, did he happen to bring that up to you?
This week.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Do you think I should reping
Yes,
him?
no, I think he's gonna move. I don't think you're gonna have to be honest. I think he's
Okay.
gonna move on it because, he had talked to me about assisting him with a job description.
Oh, super. Okay, great.
So, and making sure he gets that taken care of before he goes.
Do we need to weigh in on the job description, the commissioners?
No, because
Okay.
I mean, no offense. I'm gonna cut and paste from, without scaring anyone. We want to get someone. So I don't want it to be, we want to, we want to do it fast. And I think it's going to be a struggle, to be honest with you, like to find someone, because, there's a shortage of building officials and there's a shortage of enforcement persons. So,
Must someone have a certification to be an inland wetlands agent, or this is just? sort of
yeah,
meets-
but you don't necessarily need it. It's the same thing with a CEO. Mark Melanson's been the zoning enforcement officer for.
We lost her.
For a long time.
We lost you for how long?
Do you have me?
Yeah, now we do.
Wow, how is it unstable?
Yeah, we lost you when you said Mark Melanson been a zoning officer, and then you didn't say how long.
20 years.
Oh,
20 years. And, he knows, but he's technically not certified by Casio. And
Okay,
yet,
so-
yeah, so I mean, if we could get someone with 20 years experience, there's someone who I'm working on. I think some of you might have met her, to get her out of retirement to come. But, we'll see.
And that's a town position, it's a paid town position?
It will be.
Yeah,
They share it with other zoning enforcement officers, like, the building department up in Norfolk, the building inspector there is also this was years ago, is the building inspector in some other towns.
Yeah, we'll see what we get for, start with, I think Bob is thinking of a position that would be inland wetlands officer, zoning enforcement officer, and blight officer. So, it would, be justified as a full-time position because we need it. And because, you tackle those three initiatives, you're going to be busy.
someone from the town showed up at my, how we pulled the permit for a garage? Well, we haven't
Yeah.
started yet. and he said he was just checking on the permits or something. Who was that? Is that someone from the building department? Someone new? A guy just showed up at our property and said, we're just checking on
Did
the
he,
permits."
did he have white hair and glasses?
Glasses, yeah.
Did he have, you know, he's,
No, it's no one that I'm.
there is an assistant building. There's an assistant building official that
Oh.
it could have been.
Oh, okay.
His name is Bill Velosky. Pretty friendly, nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
He
I just wasn't, I was just surprised. I guess he thought he
He
didn't.
just wanted to see what type of precious silver you had.
I have no idea. I said, well, we have stakes where the garage is going, but we haven't done anything yet.
And he says, that's fine. Can you know, if you just get your jewelry and let me take a look at that. And,
That's fun. That's so funny. But you know, I mean, I guess if we do end up, if the town does hire an enforcement officer, is there any interfacing between the enforcement officer and us? Does the enforcement officer come to the meetings?
yes.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Definitely.
So that would be great because that person has so much knowledge and great.
Hopefully.
And then, right, hopefully.
Yeah.
But that's personally why I really want to brush up on the ordinances and take those classes and things so that like, if an enforcement officer brings a problem to us, then we can really back that person. At least me, I can back that person up with
Yeah. Fingers crossed
more
that, you know,
knowledge.
yeah, that
Okay.
would be good.
Oh, you know, one thing I wanted to bring up, Steve, I totally agree with you on the storm drain issue and all that. It's been so, and it's really been extra visible during the deep drawdown. One thing though, Jim Rollins told me that the town doesn't put the salt compound on Wakefield Boulevard. They might put sand, like an organic substance, but they actually don't put any chemicals.
I think that's probably 95% true. I think there are some instances where if you ride around the lake, as a result of some of the runoff from the dirt roads on the off side of the lake, the off side of the water, the runoff there is very significant. And as a result of it, it pools and freezes overnight where there are potholes. And the only way to eliminate it is to put something more aggressive or to be out there with some kind of machinery and, you know, just scrape the surface of Wakefield Boulevard down to the blacktop again to eliminate the ruts and the ice builds up. So I'm not, you know, I respect Jim, and Jim was a former commissioner and he knows the game, so to speak. And he's willing to be as cooperative as he can, but by the same token, I think he has to manage the safety of that road. And in some instances, it may need more. And I'm not saying they're putting anything down, but even sand in itself washes into the.
Well,
catch
yeah,
basin.
I mean, not that sand
You know,
is good.
Yeah,
but,
and
yeah.
you know, it's certainly better than salt, but it does wind up in the catch basins, and the catch basins then flow into the lake.
Didn't we vote on using another substance besides sand and salt? Remember, Ray Fuger researched it.
At one point, I thought Rick Nolet was working with the Highland Lake Watershed Association to come up with some kind of an agreeable solution, so to speak, to treat the roads. And
Yeah.
for some reason, something kind of green something or something was
Green, yeah.
that was user friendly. But that's an easy question for Jim if they're using it. And you know, I mean, this conversation is probably a 4 or 5 year old conversation.
You folks are gonna have to wrap up. I'm so sorry.
Okay, should
Just because I gotta let them on.
so should someone move to adjourn? I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Jeff, good luck.
It's so rare we get to have these conversations when it's
Yeah.
not late at night and we're so
Right,
weary.
do it
Yeah.
again. you know,
Jeff, we've gone to midnight before, so.
Great.
Now, Pam, now there is a
You usually go
vacancy
to bed
again.
at 10.
Yes, yep,
There-
yep, and
there is a vacancy.
yeah, yeah.
And just one last comment from me. A couple of weeks ago, I was asked by a member of the Highland Lake Watershed Association to sort of put a little article in their quarterly newsletter regarding our commission, which I had agreed to do. So something from our perspective will come out, and it's not going to be a long drawn out thing. It's just going to be, I guess, an urgency for every homeowner and new homeowners to make application and just follow the process. And the likelihood is they're going to get what they want because, the rules will allow it. Having said that, I can't remember an application that was denied on what they've asked for, other than one or two in the last 5 or 10 years. So,
Okay, Pam's gonna kick us out.
I am.
goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.